You're listening to Indications by the Conference Board.
Welcome to the Conference Board's Indications podcast. Indications is a public podcast featuring our global roster of thought leaders. Topics range from economic growth and competitiveness to human capital, governance, sustainability, and beyond. Each episode is a serious conversation grounded in data and insights that will keep you ahead of the curve in a turbulent world. I'm here with my colleague Lynn Franco, Senior Director of Economic Indicators and Surveys at the Conference Board. Welcome, Lynn. It's always great to speak with you.
Great to be back, Dana.
So let's discuss the most recent consumer confidence survey. Consumer confidence was roughly unchanged in July, but held just shy of the pre-pandemic level. Have we seen a peak in confidence?
I think it's too soon to tell, but we definitely are at least in a strong and steady holding pattern.
That's great. When we look at the present situation, that was also almost unchanged in the report. Tell us about that.
Yes, we had a little bit of an uptick in the present situation. I think what that's telling us is that we've begun the third quarter on strong, solid footing. So we're expecting, economic growth to be maintained and rather robust in Q3 and heading into Q4 as well.
Do you think the vaccine effect and easing mobility restrictions are still supporting confidence?
They do seem to be, supporting confidence. We've seen a little bit of a downtick in the percent of people who cite the virus as sort of a deterrent. But the wild card here is the Delta variant, right? So as that sort of emerges and begins to spread, I think, at a faster pace, it could dampen confidence in the months ahead.
Well, the variant notwithstanding, expectations still held about steady. What is influencing these sentiments?
Absolutely. I mean, consumers remain very positive. This is a relatively strong reading given where we are in the cycle. And what they're telling us is that they expect, the job market to continue to improve. They expect overall economic conditions to improve. And they also expect their financial prospects to improve. So that should all help boost spending in the short term.
Well, speaking of spending, talk to us about buying plans.
Well, here we see consumers' willingness to spend increase, whether it's for homes, autos, or major appliances. The issue here really, I think, is sort of on the supply side, right? We've seen lumber shortages, which are affecting the housing market, also pricing issues, which are pricing some people out of the market and turning them into renters as opposed to buyers. We've got a little bit of a supply issue both with autos and home appliances. But we expect a lot of that to work its way through and dissipate by the end of the year.
Yeah, definitely when it comes to appliances. I ordered a microwave 2 months ago and I'm still waiting for it.
Oh, boy.
So I'm having to cook everything in the oven, old school. So Lynn, do we see any differentiation in sentiment by age or income level?
We're seeing some mixed news, across age groups, a little bit of a downtick in the younger age group, a little bit of an uptick in the others. I think all relatively just some noise and everybody's pretty confident. You take a look at the income levels as well, and we've had, a few fluctuations there, but we're much stronger and more confident than we were at the start of the year. And, that's pretty good news.
That's great. Well, were there any differences in confidence by region in the U.S.?
We did see differences by region and we did see differences by state. And some of this could be attributed to some states where, the Delta variant is a little bit more prevalent. So we've saw a bit of a downtick in confidence in California. It's still relatively strong and better than it was at the beginning of the year. Larger declines were posted in Texas and Florida, where we've also seen, I think, an uptick in cases. New York, on the other hand, reached an all-time high. So the economy here seems to be rebounding and on much better footing than it was a year ago.
That's great. If the economy can make it in New York, it can make it anywhere.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about inflation expectations. They actually dipped in July, but they still remain near the 11-year high reached in June. What's the outlook for inflation expectations?
Still high. I think, a lot of these supply chain issues that we're seeing that are causing this sort of elevated inflation expectation probably won't work their way through the system until year end. But it's not deterring consumers from spending. So that's the good news, right? So they're still willing, able, and ready to spend. We just need sort of, the supply issues to work themselves out.
Indeed, when I go to the mall, there are lines outside of every store. So it seems like, as you said, despite rising prices, the confidence in buying is still pretty high. So, what about the stimulus checks that are being delivered to families that just started July 15th? Do we see any evidence of that affecting sentiment, or do you think it's probably a little too early?
It was probably already baked in, but I think it's going to help boost spending. I see the same thing here. I mean, the lines to get into the malls are quite long, and it's causing a big traffic backup. So obviously, gas prices aren't influencing purchasing decisions either. So it does look again, that consumers are out there, they're spending, they're enjoying the summer months. And we'll just take a look and see what happens in terms of, the Delta variant. It could be very sort of localized as opposed to national in terms of its effect. But all signs right now, at least, are that consumers are going to remain pretty confident throughout the end of the year.
So, what are the factors that might continue to support this confidence through year end?
Well, I think that we see supporting confidence is going to be, the child tax credit payments, which have already begun, a strong job growth, the infrastructure plan. But of course, that may not be felt until 2022. The only wild cards here are, the Delta variant. And if we begin to see renewed restrictions, but again, that might be localized and slow job growth. I mean, jobs are always the key to consumer confidence, and that always has the sort of longer term effect and impact on confidence levels.
Indeed. Well, thank you, Lynn, once again for such great insights. This has been Indications from the Conference Board. If you enjoyed this podcast, you may listen to additional Conference Board offerings by going to www.conference-board.org/podcasts, or find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks again for listening.
This has been Indications from the Conference Board.